All right, good evening. Before we get started tonight, I would like to present a plaque to the 2030 Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. Gilbert, if you would come down, please. Gilbert Carlson served as our chairman of the Comp Plan Steering Committee. So I'll read this plaque here. It says, presented on the 18th day of October 2016, the Bethany 2030 Comprehensive Plan is the result of extensive hard work and the collaboration among a range of stakeholders, community leaders, elected officials, and members of the public who care deeply about the future of the city of Bethany. In particular, the following people are recognized for their contributions to this effort. Steve Allen with Sears and Allen Style Homes, Dr. Lauren Gresham with SNU, Paul Moon of McClure's Flowers, Cecil Bowles of Putnam City Schools, Kathy Holloway of the Bethany City Council, Sarah Rose of Agape Pet Clinic, Lori Boyd of the Children's Center, Jeff Knapp of the Bethany City Council, Lynn Scott of Ron's Tire and Auto, Ron Burchett, Commissioner of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Kathy Larson, Bethany City Council, Dr. Kent Schellenberger, Bethany Public Schools, Gilbert Carlson, P&Z Commissioner, Mark Long with SRB LLC, Ken Smart with Gilbert Medical Center, Chris DeGraffenried of Boomerang, Randy Lunstra of the Bethany City Council, Tyson Smith of Papa's Leather Barn, Dana DeLong of SCU, Susan Martin of the Bethany Improvement Foundation, Philip Suarez of the Bethany Improvement Foundation, Susie Epps of DBMA, Jill McCartney of the Northwest Chamber, and Dr. Reggie Zwanyika of SCU.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Gilbert. We appreciate very much what the steering committee did and the wonderful comp plan that they brought to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, Danielle. Danielle, who also worked tirelessly staff-wise on the comp plan for us, has certificates to present to those that are here tonight that also served on the committee.
First of all is our chairman, Gilbert Carlson.
Thank you, sir.
2 awards, Gilbert.
Yes.
Yes.
Our second is Susie Epps.
Thank you, Susie. Appreciate your time.
Lori Boyd.
Thank you, Lori.
Ron Burchett.
Thank you.
sir.
Appreciate it. Yeah, pleasure.
Thanks, Ron.
Mr. Mayor.
Appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Mark Long.
Thank you, Mark.
Paul Moon.
Thank you, Paul.
And the rest fall.
I'll get him.
Ready for charge.
Exactly. Tyson Smith.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tyson.
Kathy Holloway.
Thank you, Kathy.
Kathy Larson.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thanks for letting me serve.
Absolutely.
Jeff Knapp.
Appreciate it. Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Jeff.
Randy Lunstra. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. Appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
And one last one, Dr. Arleta Harris for serving on our Technical Advisory Committee.
Thanks, Arleta.
And thank you to all the steering committee. I really appreciate it.
Excuse me just a second. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to leave this plaque with you to display for those who come after it. We've probably gotten more out of this than we put into it, but we have a very special thanks that we'd like to offer to one of our employees who's been indispensable, gone above and beyond the call of duty. Danielle? These flowers from McClure's are for you as a thank you. We appreciate you greatly.
And again, thank you to all involved for your participation, for your insight. It was a long, drawn-out process, but I think we've got a fantastic comp plan that will carry us forward for many years. And it was much, much needed. It had been too long, way too long since we had redone the comp plan, but hopefully this will carry us years into the future. But thank you again to everybody involved. Appreciate it. Would you please stand for the invocation by Councilmember Harris and remain standing for the flag salute, please.
Precious Father, we just thank you for bringing this community together for the comp plan, for the ability that you have given our people to think it through and to think into the future and to realize what the future of our community can hold. And we pray now that you will unite us and help us to go forward with the planning and the progress that we have laid out for this community. We ask that you give us wisdom tonight and give us guidance as we make decisions and all that we do in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please turn and face the flag. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. The first item on tonight's agenda is the consent docket. We have items 1A through C. Do any of those items need to be pulled or addressed separately?
Extra item A, and replace, is there any change in item A from what was sent out?
It says that there was a typo corrected on item 6 at the very top. So we will be voting on the amended. Correct.
That one word was removed?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No, you're good. Okay, I would take a motion on the consent docket as a whole.
I move approval of the consent docket.
All right, do we have a second? Please post your votes. Thank you.
I also want to comment that I loved using Laserfish to look at the items, and I'm sure that John Robinson appreciated not getting my emails asking questions.
All right, item 2 is called to the public. If any member of the audience wishes to address the council, please step forward to the podium. First state your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes to speak.
Arvil Williams, 4001 North Patty Lane, Oklahoma City. I just had 2 items tonight. Thank you. I'd like to welcome the new city manager, Mr. Cox. I especially appreciated his letter in the water bill that came through. It is nice when we have a city manager that informs the public and works with us. And the other item I wanted to bring up briefly was agenda item 5. I sincerely hope that the council can negotiate a good, equitable, and reasonable return on the investment that the city of Bethany and the citizens of Bethany will be making in that TIF. I hope that they have taken a look at the past TIFs that have been involved and how they worked and did not work, and they use that judgment and that information, that knowledge to make this a real investment in the future of Bethany. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to address the council? Hearing or seeing none, I'll move on to item 3, which is...
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Can I interrupt just for a second? I forgot my agenda and the meat of the agenda. And I didn't catch on my electronic device that item B was actually stuck in that consent docket. Do we need to have any I mean, it's already past tense, I guess.
I guess there could be a motion to reconsider if you
I don't even
care
know
to
that it
do
needs to be
that.
reconsidered. I don't know if if it needed to be discussed at all on that water line that fed that children's center. If anybody wanted to discuss it at all.
I'd give you an opportunity if you wanted to.
Well,
If you had any specific questions or...
Well, the main specific question is what happened in the first, that's the one that they built on top of the water line, and it was the fire protection was the main question of that, if I remember correctly.
Mr. Mayor, if
Go
I,
ahead, yeah,
can you hear me okay?
absolutely.
If I might suggest a couple of things. One is we can maybe jot that down as a follow-up. I believe we had a representative from the Children's Hospital that could have maybe stood for questions, but it's already left because the item's already approved.
Right.
But if you'd like, we can follow up with anything you'd like for us.
Well, I
to
guess the
follow
main
up.
question I got is the fire chief is happy with that.
Yes,
Okay, that's the main thing.
okay.
I would actually like to thank staff because I had questions about that. And we got this time the 11 by 18 sheets of the plans instead of blurry 8 by 11s. So I was able to actually go through and sort that out. And it looks like they've actually rerouted that line now, so there's no building over it.
Right.
But I am appreciative of the larger plans that are a clear print so we could actually read over time.
The cost of doing the larger prints, would it be helpful if maybe they were available to us rather than all of us getting a copy? I mean, like if during the day of the council or at 6 o'clock prior to the council? I know that there's one available, so rather than, I don't want any more paper at my house.
Mr. Caton, is that...
I would rather come up here
Are
and
we,
look at
are we
it.
provided ever an electronic copy of those plans, or could we request those? I mean, they're obviously drawn these days in a computer.
We almost always get electronic.
Okay. So providing that may help too, because then somebody can zoom in and see something in
That's
more
right.
detail.
And I'm hopeful that we can maybe someday go toward an iPad solution
Right.
where you have all that electronically as well. So some people like paper, some people like, but that would also be a good solution for us, I think.
Sure, absolutely.
Just to follow up on that, Councilmember Moore, it looks like now, and correct me if I'm wrong, they are no longer building on top of the water line. They have a complete new path.
That's right.
That's what I want to make sure, because I know it was, for a while there, it was.
Yeah.
All right, item 3 is consideration and possible action to adopt ordinance number 1923 requiring court cost deposits for citizen-initiated complaints in municipal court under certain circumstances, providing for repeal or severability and declaring an emergency. Item 3A is consideration and possible approval of ordinance number 1923 on reading by title only. Do we have such a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Please post your votes for reading by title only. Thank you. Go ahead, David.
An ordinance amending Title III, Section 33.048 of the Bethany Code of Ordinances pertaining to court cost in municipal court and adding a court cost deposit for citizen-initiated complaints, providing for repealer and severability, and declaring an emergency. This ordinance has three sections that adopt the ordinance, and then a separate section for the emergency clause. I think the memo that went out to you is a synopsis of the explanation. I note the court clerk is here, could answer questions. Let me see if I can summarize a little more detail than what's in that memo. This is not aimed at code-type complaints in that those complaints are handled by staff, and of course staff, if they sign a complaint or issue a citation, they appear in court and there's no citizen involvement in that. The things we're talking about in general are assault and battery, trespassing, shoplifting, barking dogs, and neighborhood disputes of all sorts. The problem is that when the police arrive on a call like this, they are not observing any crime being committed. Our police cannot arrest someone when they did not observe the crime being committed. So consequently, unless it's a serious crime, what happens at that point is that the citizen who initiated the call signs a complaint. That's then filed through the court. The perpetrator of the offense, whatever it is then summoned to court, and the judge makes a decision of whether they're guilty or not guilty. Of course, the person who signs that complaint has to be present in court because any accused has a right to face their accusers. And the judge has to hear that testimony in order to make a determination. What's happened some 2 to 3 times a month, people are signing these complaints of the category that I described to you, and then the person signing the complaint doesn't show up. Maybe the accused person shows up, but the complaining party does not, and consequently, those cases end up having to be dismissed after involvement of our police department, our court clerks, and the judge's time. So that's the purpose of this ordinance. The court clerk's here. I have heard comments back from the police department and the court, and they both support this ordinance. I think for the police department, this is a problem too, in that oftentimes they go out to a situation, many times in domestic calls, they're quite heated. Sometimes they even get hurt on those calls. And then if the victim fails to show, that's certainly frustrating to them. And that's, I think, the reason for their support of it. But I'll answer any questions anybody has. But that's the purpose of it, and the court clerk can give you more detail on the volume that we're talking about if you want to hear that.
I do have a question, and I see and understand the need for this. I think when you put your money where your mouth is, you'll show up. But I have a situation in Ward 3 where it's code enforcement, and the individual has filed the complaint, signed off on the complaint. They've gone before the judge on more than one occasion. Now, we're coming back, and my question is that person that's been turning this code enforcement issue in, every time he or she wants to complain or, about that individual again, now we're gonna make her be the one that has to he or she put up the money instead of the one that keeps breaking the ordinance.
Well,
And that
when
seems-
when you say code enforcement, are you talking about things like tall grass or weeds or
It was a
debris?
number of things. It was
Okay.
not taking care of
domestic
a
or-
dog, it
Yeah.
was grass, it was trash, it was deplorable living conditions, it was a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Well, those code kind of violations, when I say code violations, like the weeds, debris, dilapidated building, unsafe living conditions, those are things that all should be able to be handled by staff. So the individual should not have to sign a complaint for those kinds of
They've
things.
been-
Now, if they get in a fight out in the driveway, yes, that person's gonna have to be there because the police won't have seen it happen.
It's more of a disturbing the peace. What I see is a lot of disturbing the peace. Words become heated, and then after a month or so, we go along, we're in the court process, and no one shows up at the end of the day. We have a lot of time invested, like he said, the officer, the court staff, the city prosecutor has to review every citizen complaint and approve it. So what we're witnessing about 20 to 30 times in this last period is where citizens are actually making the complaint and not following through. It makes our dockets very large. It makes us where we put aside a certain amount of time, and then when they don't show up, we're having to, move things forward or dismiss, and the city is not even recovering any cost whatsoever. $30, I think, is a very, very court cost price. A lot of municipalities are doing this, and a lot of them are doing it at much a higher bond, basically. And this is, let me remind you, this is a bond of $30. If they do follow through with everything, they come to court, that is refunded back to them. The judge would be the one to be able to refund that back to them. So if you're a citizen and you're serious about a complaint and you're following through and it's not an arrestable offense, you would post the $30. Once the court process is done, that $30, regardless of the decision, would be refunded back to you.
How does this work procedurally? They call the policeman out,
They would
file
still-
a complaint, give them $30?
No, it would all be done, what they would do is they obviously would call the police department. The police department would respond. Chief Cole and I have spoke in depth about this for about 9 months. We've discussed how the officer would have basically a citizen complaint packet if the plaintiff and defendant aren't both there and they can't serve both parties. Then they would hand the complainant the information. They would have 2 business days to come to the court clerk's office to file their complaint and post the $30 bond. If after that 48 hours or 2 business days, after that's not done, then it would be dismissed. Or basically, it wouldn't be filed altogether.
Then they're notified of the court date, which is daytime hours, I'm assuming?
Right. They would not be notified of a court date until they actually came and posted the $30 bond and filed the complaint with the court.
Court is during daytime hours.
Yes,
So they
ma'am.
need to take off work to get their $30
Right.
back.
It would be 8 to 5, yes, ma'am.
One thing I forgot to mention, it does have a provision in it that the judge can waive that fee. Obviously, we're not trying to sell justice in our court. If someone cannot afford to pay that bond, they can make a request and the court would waive that, so.
And I will remind everyone, whenever anyone does plead not guilty, they are required to post a bond also, unless the judge does waive that, which is very minimal. And it's more than $30, so.
And that is, any judge can waive that if they
I beg your pardon?
That is in here.
Yes, the judge has the authority to waive the fee.
Any other questions of staff?
So you're not necessarily saying this is a frivolous complaint. You're assuming that it's frivolous because the person didn't show for whatever reason.
Right. What we witness is the life of a case takes a long amount of time. It's not only just filing, it's putting it into the system, it's, getting the information, having the city prosecutor review it. Even after that is done, it requires another appearance for them to come. If they request subpoenas and all of that, our office draws those up for them also. So even after they've already come to court once, they have to return, and they have subpoenas in their hand and a trial date, and sometimes there's still a time when both parties don't appear.
So they've gone through that process, so they've at least showed some sustainability.
Correct.
In their.
Some have not.
And I wouldn't use the word frivolous. I don't know that the city is ever considering any complaint frivolous per se, just that if you're going to stand up court staff or the judge on your court day, then we expect to be compensated for the time we spent to get to that point. It could be still a completely legitimate complaint, and maybe you just couldn't get off work, whatever it is, but also notifying the court staff that a date can't be made, I'm sure would be much preferred and could be worked with versus just not showing up with no comment.
Right, because we have only one citizen complaint docket a month. So it gets heavy really quick. We have a 10:30, and then trials are set for another day. We're sometimes there. I'm not saying that anyone's complaint. If you have a complaint, you have a complaint, and you have the right to have everyone there and have your day in court. But what we're noticing is a lot of people, there's what we call sometimes a cool-off period, and after the cool-off period, they've mended fences. However, they haven't let the court know. And that's the type that we're talking about.
And I'm sure the court would hope that those fences are mended and it doesn't have to go through the
Absolutely.
court system. So,
Absolutely.
But at least go request that it be dismissed. Don't
Correct.
just not show up.
Correct. And even to dismiss a citizen complaint, if someone does file a complaint, it is a $30 dismissal. So it's, I don't want to issue warrants for people that don't show up. If both parties don't show up, I don't want to issue a $548 warrant for each of those people. But we're almost to the point where it's about to get to that if they keep holding up the time and keeping that from other complaints and other things that can move forward.
So it's $30 to file the complaint,
It's a bond.
$30 if they want to dismiss it?
Right now, we only charge a dismissal. If someone wants to dismiss a complaint and both parties have been served with a court date, they have to pay $30 to dismiss it.
So
what-
they don't get their money back?
Would we just
Well,
forfeit their bond in this situation?
In this situation, yes. Yes.
So it wouldn't cost 60.
Right,
it would
no,
just-
no, it doesn't cost 60. No,
It would just be
still just
30.
be 30.
Correct.
Which is court costs in the state.
One other thing I didn't mention, the judge was involved in the discussion with us. She also supports this idea.
Yes.
And the police, in terms of what they've done, they go out to the scene, diffuse the situation, whatever it is, then they write a narrative report, which is filed in the police department, becomes part of the court record, and so there is a lot of time involved before it even gets to the court.
And then if they don't have service at the scene, then they have to get service at the time. And what we're trying to do is our officers obviously cool down the situation, but they're usually spending at least 45 minutes to an hour just on paperwork alone afterwards. We're trying to keep that from them where they can get onto those emergency calls, and the court staff can actually take that on. And when people, obviously they ask a lot of questions at the scene of the officer, and sometimes every officer isn't well informed of the court process. they could be able to come into our office and get the correct court dates, the correct information, and then it would help them in the long run also.
Isn't a dismissal preferable to going to court?
Absolutely.
But
If,
you're keeping the $30 if it's dismissed and giving it back if they go to court.
if they go to court, then they're following through with the process, and if the defendant is found guilty, then the defendant will still have to pay a fine, or it can be waived by the judge, or the defendant can pay a court cost. The judge could also decide, this isn't really something that should have happened in the first place. I'm going to give you your $30 back. Everybody go, about their own business and don't make contact with each other usually. It's something like that. So if they we want people to come to court. If they want to file a complaint, I want you to come to court, and I want you to go through the correct procedure. What we're talking about is all of the people that don't go through the correct procedure, and then is bogging down basically our docket.
Would you consider returning the money at dismissal?
Absolutely. The judge has the authority to dismiss or return any bond that's placed. Yes. And I will remind you, when we have trials right now, if they're found not guilty, or even sometimes if they're found guilty, if she feels like it's in excess, she will have us refund that. And that's done within 10 days also, business days.
All right, if there's no further questions, I'll move on to item B, which is consideration and possible approval of sections 1 through 3 of ordinance number 1923. Do we have such a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other questions or discussion? Please post your votes. Thank you. Item 3C is consideration and possible approval of Section 4 of Ordinance Number 1923, the emergency section. Do we have such a motion?
I assume that we want this as soon as possible. Is one with that?
That'd be my recommendation, because these are happening at 2+ a month.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion for approval of the emergency section. Do we have a second?
Second.
Please post your votes for the emergency clause. Thank you. Item 4 is establish filing dates for the 2017 elections for mayor and council members, and directing the city attorney for preparation of the necessary resolution calling the election and establishing the filing dates. David?
Yeah, the election is at a new date this year for your primary election. It's February 14th, which is also Valentine's Day. And the law now required, well, first of all, we have to call the election 60 days in advance by giving notice to the county election board. And the filing period can't be any later than 20 days past the last date you can file with the county election board. And in this case, that would be January 4th, 5th, and 6th of 2017 would be the last possible days that the filing period could be set. However, it is possible to set it earlier than that. You have 2 holiday periods coming up. The 5th, 6th, and 7th of December, that's the school board filing dates. I'm not sure that makes any difference. I just wanted to point that out. So basically, any 3-day period in December would work.
I think if you're ready for a motion, I'd like to make a motion. That
Absolutely.
We use the dates for December 7th, 8th, and 9th for filing, 7th, 8th, and 9th of December to file.
Okay, so we have a motion to make the filing dates December 7th, 8th, and 9th. That's a Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And we have a second. Is there any questions or discussion? Please post your votes.
I'll prepare that resolution and bring it back at your next meeting for adoption. Then we'll provide that to the county election board and publish the notice of election as well.
Thank you for your work on this, David.
Sure.
All right, item 5 is appointing a member of the City Council and a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission to the Review Board for the TIF District Number 1, which involves property near Northwest 39th and the Lake Road, also known as Waterside. Council members, I would like to nominate Councilmember John Herron to serve as the chairman of this and our member from the City Council, and Gilbert Carlson from Planning and Zoning to serve as the member from P&Z. Councilmember Herron, the reason why I had asked him actually back in May when we first discussed this item is that John hasn't had any contact with the developer per se. He's been around him at a couple public meetings, I think he said. He doesn't, so he doesn't have any bias one way or another. It's in his ward, so it directly affects him in the fact that it's in his ward. So I've asked him and Commissioner Carlson. Gilbert is a longtime member of Planning and Zoning. He currently serves as vice chairman. And so I think both of these people would be excellent. So I would make a motion that we nominate those two. Do I have a second?
I second.
Any questions or discussion? Please post your votes. Got that, Susan?
That passes.
Okay, thank you.
Just to follow up, the next step that will happen is that the TIF committee now consists of the two members you just appointed, plus it consists of a representative of each taxing entity that will be affected. And at the first meeting of that committee, it's their obligation to appoint 3 more members from a list of 7 that are provided to them by the chairman, and Mr. Herron will be the chairman of that committee. So that's the next step, and hopefully they'll, once the committee has full membership, it should be ready to begin its review of the project.
And David, you might mention too where we got that from and what outlines how that committee works and why we're having that committee.
Yeah, the law requires, in order to create a tax increment financing district under the Local Development Act, it can't be adopted until it's been reviewed by this review committee, and state law states the makeup of that committee. It's not something that we develop. That's the required makeup of the committee. And then once the committee reviews the project plan that will be submitted to it, it will then make a recommendation to the city council, and then there will be advertised public hearings before you even consider adopting that. And ultimately, the city council approval of the project plan is required.
Right. Thank you, David.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
David, does the city attorney and city manager attend those meetings, staff support?
Generally, yes.
All right.
They won't have independent counsel because they won't have any money to hire one.
Very good.
All right. Item 6 is the city attorney's report, David.
All my items are on the agenda.
Item 7 is the city manager's report. JD.
Good evening again. I apologize. I missed the last meeting. I am feeling better, and I want to thank everyone for all the well wishes. It's great to be back. My report, being gone for a month, is a little bit longer tonight, and I want to ask if that was okay. I don't want to get demerits right out of the gate here for having too long of reports. But I do have a lot. We have a lot going on right now that I want to share with you all. I've completed a number of meetings that have occurred since our last time that I was with you. I've met with the city manager of Oklahoma City just yesterday, had a great meeting, looking forward to hopefully further cooperation with the city of Oklahoma City. Also met with the Bethany Merchants Association, had a great meeting just today. The comp plan, we just had a presentation tonight. I was really happy to see so many folks from the comp plan that were here tonight that worked on it. And I'm going to come back to that in just a little bit. And then as well as I'm participating in Leadership Northwest Oklahoma City, and so that's been a great experience. Today before noon, we completed the big trash cleanup, and so it was great to have that completed. I've gotten good reports on that so far. Also, our staff has begun addressing handicap accessibility in our downtown area and also in the City Hall area. We have more work to do, but we're going to continue doing that. Some things coming up pretty quick. I'm required to attend a new Officers Institute by the state of Oklahoma, and that will occur for me on Thursday in Woodward, Oklahoma, if you all know where Woodward is. I'll be making that trek and journey. I'll be meeting with the Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality later on this month. Also, we're in receipt of a franchise renewal request from OG&E, and so I anticipate that being on the next agenda. Also, our Special Events Permitting Committee has met, and we had a great meeting. I'm kind of hopeful at this point we'll have something for you on November 1st, but we have yet one more meeting probably we'll have to do, but it was a good meeting that we had already. Also, the police department is planning to host council for any of you that are able to attend a event at the shooting range, and that will be together with War Acres, and so it might be an opportunity to meet some of the council members from the city of War Acres.
What date is that?
That's not yet been set. They're working on that though now. I'll let you know. Also, we've identified a few areas that there's maybe some additional opportunities for improvement or for our processes to maybe work a little bit better or to eliminate some redundancies. One of those areas I'll be working with our finance director, J.R. Robinson, regarding our late fees that we have or have incurred in the past because of our processes and our institutional system that we have in place that causes our payments to be late when we send them in. But we'll look into that and see how big of an issue that we have there, but we do know we have some anyway. Also, I've observed that our bid openings are very, very slow. Our process is to go out for bid. We're going to try, unless you have opinions otherwise, to have bid openings at times other than council meetings, and then we'll bring the bid tabulations to you all. It'll be all the same information that you're already getting, but I think it will streamline and expedite our processes when we go out for bid. Also, I'm seeing we may have a tremendous need for the establishment of a gifting policy when gifts are given to our city, our organization. I think it would be helpful for you all, and you all can decide what those contingencies would be that you accept the gift. A lot of cities will make statements in advance and have a policy in place that there are no strings, cash only, or if it is given, that you all have complete authority to determine where that will be and it's given with no strings, those types of things. So we'll prepare a draft for you all to have a look at, and you can consider and see where you'd like to go from there. Also, I think it may be wonderfully helpful if we were to figure out a way to, we have almost 20,000 people in our community. It would be really great if we could figure out a way that we can entice and encourage more volunteerism in our community and engage more and more of our population. I'll come back to that in just a moment. Both senior folks that are retired, but then as well as some of our working folks as well. Also, a park and tree board might be an interesting thing for us to kick around as well. To the library, we have had just a flurry of activity going on with our library project. We have hired Todd Oberding to be our construction manager. He has set up an office in City Hall. We'll be working part-time through the duration of the project. the money for that position is in the budget. And we have a targeted plan in place to keep that on budget. Speaking of on budget, the project's on budget at this point, and also on schedule and on time. So we're going to keep working on that. Councilmember Larson has been instrumental in a lot of those activities, and we have other committee members that will be and are participating in that as well. And then also the other thing I was going to mention tonight, the HVAC system was purchased by the Metropolitan Library System, and they've asked for, at the time of demolition, rather than us demolishing that we return it to them so that they can use it in other facilities. So we're anticipating doing that at the time of demolition. I want to come back to the comp plan. Again, it's wonderful seeing all these folks that are still here this evening. And I want to offer a couple of comments. I continue to be just enthralled with the fact that we have such a wonderful document. I want to also encourage us, I guess, since we have tweaked it a couple of times now, that we try to go ahead and move forward with it as best we can, what we have, and maybe target having annual updates instead of going back and keep tweaking it so that we can move forward with implementation. And speaking of implementation, we had a steering committee meeting on September the 28th. It was an excellent meeting. Many folks here in the Horseshoe attended that. Many folks in our audience attended that as well. I think it was a considerable, meaty discussion that we had. It was a very good discussion. And today we began the process of discussing what's our next steps in implementation. It looks like now we're going to try to put together a staff tactical committee that will be going through all the action items on the comp plan. We'll be identifying the resources available, if they're city resources or if they're external to us. Also, if we know of any champions within our organization that could potentially head up those various areas. There are 49 action items that are currently identified in the plan. And then the next step then, I've talked to Chairman Carlson, who's here yet tonight, about our steering committee continuing to be involved. I'm very pleased that the motion was made initially and they've all agreed to continue on, because I think they will be instrumental in us involving more and more of the community, which I was talking about a moment ago. And I'm hopeful that the steering committee then can walk through each one of those 49 items, discuss the resources that staff has identified thus far, and add to that. I add to the potential champions in our community and help us to reach out and involve yet more people to make it more and more feasible. Also to identify those short-term things that are on the plan as well as the long-term things that are on there as well. So really breaking it down into how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time kind of a thing. And our comp plan is comprehensive. And so there's a lot to be done. So looking forward very much to that. Also kind of along the lines of the comp plan, code enforcement I spoke about quite a bit at the last meeting. We continue to move forward to implementation of that. Clearly that is a staff item. And I want to, I guess, give a quick little pep talk. There's a lot involved in code enforcement, and we will continue to move forward with that. Our police I'm ecstatic, our police have agreed to my question, which was, would you assist us in this endeavor? They've agreed to do so, and I want to share with you in a community policing type of way. So the idea is that we will make contact with folks in a nice, polite way. Hey, did you know? And then we give them a week or 2 weeks or whatever the police officer feels appropriate. And then after that, it's not a, hey, did you know? It's, well, we already shared this with you. It's in our tickler system, and we're following up, and you haven't complied. And so then probably tickets will be issued then. So I just wanted to give you a heads up because it may get a little rougher before it gets better, because there will most probably be pushback. You probably will get phone calls, and I'll probably talk to folks in the grocery store. But that's okay. It needs to be done, and we'll move forward unless directed otherwise. So looking forward to moving on with that. I did want to share, kind of related to that, I've noticed, and our staff has noticed too, tree trimming, in case, just as a reminder, Our code requires that trees be trimmed 8 feet above sidewalks. We have a number of places where that is not occurring, and so that'll be a hey, did you know type of thing. And then above streets, it's required to be 12, no less than 12 feet. A couple more things, and then I'll be quiet. Our organization, I mentioned before too, that we need to continue to consider, and I am doing that, and I'm working with our leadership team and our staff to align our organization to achieve those things that we wish to do in our organization. And so what do I mean by that? Operationally, the police department, I think, is in great shape, has great facilities. Our fire department, same thing. Our court system, we had some nice discussion today, but same thing. We have good staff and great facilities. Our finance city hall department, but a couple areas that are in desperate need, I think, of a lot of attention and assistance is one, our IT information technology infrastructure in our organization. We're working on that. I'd like to, Stacy Peck is still here this evening. I'd like to congratulate her. She has agreed to take on the lead role in that project to update our IT system. What we're anticipating doing is going out for a request for qualifications for a company to consult with us for solutions. And once the solution is identified, then we'll go out for proposals on who can best provide us with that solution. So that's kind of the two-step process that we're anticipating. I pretty appreciate Stacy doing that for us. Also, the website, I reported before that we had targeted the end of September. Well, the end of September has come and gone, and the website is not updated, and I wanted to address that. There's still a lot of work to be done on that. We are in the process of advertising now for a media outreach specialist. I think it would be really wise for us to have that person involved in the finalizing of the website. So the new website, the new target date is December 1. So fingers crossed that that maybe is a little more reasonable time frame, plus having the staff that we need to have in place to tackle that. And so Public Works is the other area that I mentioned a moment ago. Again, I want to take a really hard look at our staffing there, the way we're structured in Public Works. I just really feel, and I want to share with you all and be upfront about it, I don't feel like we are appropriately set up currently the way we currently are. I don't feel like we're properly maintaining our parks the way that I think our community deserves for our parks. And I'm very concerned. I learned today we're unable to clean our streets. Our street sweeper, I don't know if you're aware, but it's offline and non-operational. So we need to address that and be able to clean our house. And so we're going to be addressing that. And along those lines, that's not the sole focus. What tomorrow part of our leadership team conversation is going to be about is both short-term and long-term planning. Developing, we used to call them 1- and 6-year plans in the organization I came from, but it's the development of a 1-year, 2-year, 3-year, and projecting out over a number of years what you anticipate your capital needs to be, as well as our organizational needs. So we have a lot of work to do. I am really blessed with the leadership team that I've inherited here, and I appreciate it very much. They have embraced the things that we've been talking about, and they agree that long-range planning behooves us to do that. It's going to be helpful, and so it's already the beginning of the budget process, sorry, JR, but starting the budget process for the next fiscal year, and that's our first step, and looking forward to that. I had a few other things. I'll wait till the next meeting. This is getting so long. I do want to just share one more thing, and that is, two more things real quick. The finance report is in your packets. We're looking at maybe doing a quarterly report instead of every single month, and let us know if you'd like to do something differently. And then a reminder that Halloween is celebrated on Halloween, not other days. We usually get phone calls in City Hall, I'm told. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Are we going to go forward with the financial report tonight?
No, we'll have that for
Okay.
the next quarter.
Sounds good. All right. Item 8 is council members' announcements, comments, and proposals. Councilmember Harris, I'll start with you tonight.
Thank you. Something that I think of every time I'm downtown, and tonight just seemed like a time to bring it up, but College Street in front of our downtown businesses is full of potholes. It gathers water. It always seems to be exactly where I get out of my car, so I don't know how that is managed. It isn't striped. It just needs something. And when I brought it up before, then we get into whether College and Asbury should be one-way pairs and how we want it done and all this long-term stuff. And all it needs is paved and striped and potholes filled and made presentable for people that shop there. And if we want to go a different direction in the future, I think it won't hurt a lot to do that. But right now, there is just a need to make it safe and presentable.
I put it on my list.
Pardon?
I put it on my list.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, all right. Councilmember Holloway?
Thank you, Mayor. In talking with some of the business owners downtown,
Kathy, can you pull your mic closer, please?
in talking with some of the business owners downtown, they would like to have signage. I think we need to look into maybe a little bit larger signage, and maybe not specific, but just kind of general, like restaurants or something like that. Not a name of a restaurant, but just restaurants this way. Those types of signages. And also in the median on 39th for Christmas, we need to think about what we're going to do there, and also around City Hall, how we're going to decorate for Christmas and be a little bit specific about that. Also, I would like to see just more lighting around City Hall on College and 36. It's very, very dark in the evenings around City Hall. If we could put, I don't know if we could put just some kind of lighting that shines up in the trees, or I don't know. I just think it needs to have more lighting. And would like to just remind the citizens once again that if you'll turn on your porch lights in the evening, that helps to curb criminal activity. Criminals don't like to be seen, so if you'll turn on your backyard lights, your front yard lights. I have been driving around my ward in the evenings, and there are some streets that are just pitch dark. You can't even see a house. You can pull up at a stop sign and look one way or the other way, and it's too dark. So please turn on your porch lights. That's something that you can do to prevent things happening in your neighborhood that you're not really wanting to go on. And please lock your car doors.
Thank you. Councilmember Moore?
Thank you. I also want to thank everybody of the steering committee and everybody involved with the comprehensive plan, and it was a lot of work, and it is a good working document. I also want to thank JD. Nothing's better than a fresh set of eyes, and I'd like to kind of maybe have you add to, as you're going through and kind of establishing what constitutes a gift, what doesn't constitute a gift, levels, responsibilities, duties, those things, is to look at also, which is in the same vein as also possibly at the same time look at defining conflict of interest maybe a little bit tighter, both direct conflict of interest and indirect conflict of interest, because I think gifts and direct and indirect conflict of interest, they all tie into each other. Anything that can look wrong needs to be addressed, just to stay way above board. The annual changes to the comprehensive plan, I don't think is any problem, other than a few items that I think we'll all agree on as we start to uncover some past employees' mistakes, negligence, whatever you would want to call it. I think there's some wording in the comprehensive plan that can't wait a year, but we can address that later. But just want to say you're doing a good job.
Councilmember Lundstrom?
Thank you, Mayor. I too wanted to thank the steering committee and those who worked on the comprehensive plan. Your perspectives are valuable, and they were very, very much needed in this endeavor, and I appreciate your time and energies and put forth the effort to make this plan what it is. I have one additional question, then that's it. To our city manager, I appreciate the comprehensive reports that you've given. Obviously, you've hit the ground wearing out your tennis shoes. But I do have one question on the Bethany War Acres shooting event. Who is that aimed at in particular? That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Larson, follow that.
I too appreciate your comprehensive reports. Sitting here listening to you and trying to take notes, and I'm out of breath of all the things that you have on the table. And I know that I feel confident that your staff is going to be able to help you make those accomplishments. And hopefully we as a council will too. I want to say congratulations to Gilbert and John Herron on your TIF committee appointments. I know you'll both do a great job, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about what's going on in that arena. I also want to thank the library committee. We're doing a whole lot more than we were a year ago, even 2 years ago. And I know that some of the meetings that are happening are not as timely in your schedule as we would like for them to be, but I want you to know that the time that you spend on the committee, I greatly appreciate. And I'm looking forward to a tentative date of September of 18, I think, that we're going to be having an open house at the library. So I'm really excited about that. Won't be long before we'll have some information before council for you all to approve so that we can move on. I think it was mentioned about trick or treat. Watch for those little angels and goblins and ghosts and whatever else you see out there. And I hope that everybody will be safe and have a good time and be nice on the tricks, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Herron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to also follow up a little bit about Councilmember Harris and Councilmember Holloway with the signage in the downtown area. As far as the signage, I think we need new signage. I'd like to see something distinctive to Bethany, not just a run-of-the-mill flat sheet metal, looks like the state stamped it out. Just something very distinctive for Bethany, something that Oklahoma City doesn't do, and continue that out to 23rd Street also in our business district there. That's all I have.
Actually, if I could add to that, a lot of our street signs and our downtown signs especially are faded and need replaced. And Steve Hartzman and I talked about that when he was in power and decided we would wait for you, and especially if we ever went to change our logo or whatever, because it's involved in some of those. But we need to look at our signage. Some of it's pretty tacky.
Councilmember Knapp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to thank the members of the Steering Committee, Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee once again. I know you're recognized tonight. A couple people have already said thanks, but just thank you all once again. The library meeting, we did have a library planning meeting last week. I was very encouraged. All seems to be, at least at this stage, under budget. Some great things that'll be part of that, at least in this early discussion. So I appreciate your leadership in that, Councilmember Larson. JD, you mentioned at one point your frantic pace, and it sounds like you're keeping that up. One of the things that you mentioned, I was glad that you mentioned it, was about volunteerism. So I appreciate that. Along with volunteerism, I'd just like to have everybody keep an eye out for your neighbors. I had a new neighbor just right down the street from me that had his truck broken into and tools stolen over last week, I think it was. So just keep an eye out for your neighbors, report anything that doesn't look right. And I know most of the people will do that anyway, but just a reminder. Thank you.
I just had two quick things. I wanted to reiterate a thank you to Danielle and the rest of staff for putting together tonight's plaque, and was very excited and thankful when Danielle, it seems like it's been a couple of months now, approached me on what I thought of putting that together and doing a public thank you for the steering committee. And I think it was very important. And again, thanks to everyone who served over the last year on that committee. Definitely appreciate your input and everything that you've brought to the table. And as Gilbert said, I think the committee learned a lot as well along the way. And when you dig into these things and you really figure out different ways of approaching development and redevelopment, you do learn a lot. So very thankful for the input that each and every member of that had, and look forward to that body continuing on as we go through at least this first year of looking at the comp plan and making it even better. And that's all I'll share tonight. But so if there's nothing else, if there's no new business.
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Real quick, a couple things were mentioned at the meeting, and I've had some public feedback, and I think you're the guy to do it too, is to possibly get that bus route loop, the extra little loop that would cost them almost nothing. And I think you can sell them on that, because it's a mutual benefit to both the city of Oklahoma City and Bethany to have that extra little loop go right around 16th Meridian right there. And it's also would cure a lot of what some of us who've been around a long time called the pig trails. We've had some people hit walking on those roads. But I think you can pull it off easily. The other thing too is JR is an internet sensation with the public on opening water bills. So anything new on the water bills is welcomed, because JR is in charge of that committee, was my understanding. So anything you've got, just please share.
Go ahead with your follow-up.
Yeah, so I have a few follow-up things. I guess maybe I'll start at the top of the list. I said that I cut some stuff tonight, and I thought I'll bring it back next time. But since we talked about quite a bit of it, one of the topics I was also going to address was our community identity, and I see a real need for us having some deep conversations about what is Bethany, how do we want to be branded to the world, what do we want the world to think of when they think of Bethany, and our signage and our logos and all that type of thing communicates a message to people. And I think that's a conversation we need to have about our identity. And so we talk about signage. Yeah, we should replace what we have and keep that updated. And I'll come back to that in a second. But then these other things I think we also need to address. On my follow-up, I have the College Street downtown potholes, paving, striping. So I have that on the list. And also Asbury, 39th to 38th. Is that?
No, that was just the whole Asbury.
Oh, that was the
Just
side.
consideration of one-way clears.
Your primary was
I
on
think
College.
that's not a big deal.
It was College, that area. Okay, very good.
The one that has the potholes.
And then, as I said, the signage downtown, I have that on the list. The conflict of interest, have that for us to take a look at. We'll figure out what Councilman Leinster is aiming at for at the shooting range.
I didn't know I was going to be aiming.
Well, you're learning more as we go along.
The receiving end of that, I don't know.
And so we talked about the signage. And then the transit, that was part of the conversation I had with the city manager of Oklahoma City. The initial response was, well, the other cities of Edmond and other places are paying because there's a cost to that. But we agreed to follow up, and their transit director is going to be giving me a call, and we'll kind of go from there and see. I had a kind of a listing of different places that could potentially be mutually beneficial to our communities, and I would think it would help the ridership, but we'll see how that goes.
And if I remember, the transit agreement ended up being north-south, and they didn't go east-west. So I don't even think we were invited to be a part of that.
Conversation. Okay.
Well, it's been quite a few years, but they did present us one, I don't know, it may have been 5 years ago. And there was a fairly substantial cost with adding bus routes through Bethany. but it definitely could be looked at again.
Did I miss any other items that was requested?
I had one more other you jogged my mind on. In the downtown area years ago, the investment was made in the lighting, the pole lighting, the street lighting. And that's a wonderful candidate for changing those light sources from HID to LED. And it's a fairly simple, inexpensive process that would make a big difference in our security and look of downtown.
And Councilwoman Holloway brought up the Christmas decorations.
Thank you. I'm sorry, yes. And that was, maybe I might go ahead and address it. That was discussed today at the Downtown Business Association meeting, Merchants Association meeting. And also we have in the budget, I believe, $15,000 for Christmas lighting replacement as a result of the ice storm that you all approved in the budget. So I met today with our Public Works Center Director, and we discussed the upcoming purchase. And so we're getting ready to do that fairly quickly. And we are discussing maybe doing some things on the median downtown. That is a highly visible area, and that would be great for the amount of traffic going through there to be able to have a nice welcome.
Also, just lighting around City Hall too,
Oh,
on
thank you.
College, around just on this side, and right along 36, just a little bit west of College. It's dark right in through there.
Lighting, got it.
And I think when we appropriated that money, we talked about tasteful, because it was getting a little junky looking.
All right, is there any new business to come before the Bethany City Council? Hearing none, if there is no objection, I'll declare us adjourned until the 1st of November, 2016. Without objection, we are adjourned. I'll now open the Bethany Public Works Authority. We have the consent docket items 1A and B. Do we have a motion for approval on those items?
Motion to approve, please.
Do we have a second? Second. Please post your votes. Thank you. Is there any new business to come before the Bethany Public Works Authority? Hearing none, if there is no objection, we will, I'll declare us adjourned until November 1st, 2016. Without objection, we are adjourned. I'll now open the Bethany Hospital Trust. We have the consent docket items 1A and B. Do we have a motion for approval on those items?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Please post your votes. Thank you. Is there any new business to come before the Bethany Hospital Trust? Hearing none, if there's no objection, I'll declare us adjourned until November 1st, 2016. Without objection, we are adjourned. I'll now open the Bethany Development Authority. We have the consent docket items 1A through C. Do we have a motion to approve those items?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Please post your votes. Thank you. Is there any new business to come before the Bethany Development Authority? Hearing none, if there's no objection, I'll declare us adjourned until November 1st, 2016. Without objection, we are adjourned, and that concludes tonight's business. Thank you.